It is getting late early for the Orlando Magic out here in these woods. And boy, have the Magic put themselves in a very tough spot. Why the most basic thing you need this time of year was not there. And where the Magic go from here. Some negative, some positive. We'll do our thing. It's Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is April 10th, 2024. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the expert and site editor over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, another frankly inexcusable effort for this time of year. Whatever the cause is, we'll dive into why it may be here in a minute, but the Orlando Magic did not show up when they most needed to. Why the Magic lost to the Houston Rockets, what it means for the playoff chase, and boy, is it getting late early here. The playoffs have already begun for the Orlando Magic. We're going to dive into all of that coming up here in just a moment. But first, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. No matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload, we truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Remember, there's a great Locked On podcast covering every single team in the NBA. Just search for Locked On and the team you're looking for, the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the result. You can see the final score. If you're listening to this podcast, I kind of assume you watch the games anyway, but the Orlando Magic lost the Houston Rockets 118-106. And as I said on yesterday's episode, this was the one you kind of had to have. Your last chance against a team with a losing record. The Magic now have 8 losses against teams with losing records. So I saw some people say throughout the day or throughout the game that, you know, the Magic are dropping another one against a bad team. And yeah, they lost to the Hornets, but they've been really good against these kinds of teams all year long. So I don't want to take short-term trends and project them out to long-term things, but this is the third straight one of these kind of games against teams that are out of the playoff picture. And I know the Rockets were just eliminated Sunday, last team eliminated in the Western Conference, just like we were last year. This is the third straight game against a non-postseason opponent where I don't want to say the Magic didn't show up, but the Magic didn't play to their standard. And that's the part that's concerning right now. Look, just like against Charlotte, just like against Portland, Orlando had their chances to win this game. They were down by 6. They fought their way back from a 19-point deficit to get it down to 6 in the fourth quarter. And then their bench group just hit a wall. And then the Rockets got Fred VanVleet back in and started to hit shots. And the Magic just couldn't get over that hump. But that's the problem, is you put yourself in a hole that you have to climb out of. You're playing with fire when you play from behind. And just like the loss to Charlotte, the problems for the Magic started in the first quarter. Again, the first quarter. They came out guns blazing Sunday. They took a 14-point lead in that first quarter and won the game in the first quarter. A lot of games are won in the first quarter, folks. In this game, the Magic were playing from behind the whole time. They started off really hot. I really liked how the Magic started this game. But they trailed 36-25 after the first quarter. After the Rockets called a timeout, they came out shooting the ball really well. And the Magic's defense was just never engaged. The Magic's defense it did not exist for 3 quarters. They played a great defensive fourth quarter, to be perfectly honest. They won that quarter 24-21, the only quarter where the Magic held the Rockets under 25 points. The offense was going to be there tonight. So what? So be it. Whatever. Like I said after Friday's game, I can accept a loss. It's bad. I'm not sitting here saying it's good. I can accept the loss because the Magic don't make shots. That's kind of who they are. And as I tell everyone all the time, they can win even when they don't make shots because their defense is good enough. What they can't have happen is games like this where their defense is not good enough. When their defense isn't elite. And that's the margin of error. That's the problem with the roster. And I will talk more about that later on, because, but we will talk more about that plenty when the season ends. We know this roster is flawed. As exciting as it is to be fighting for the 2nd, the 3, the 4, whatever seed you want to fight for, we know this isn't the championship team. It's got maybe some championship pieces, but this is not the championship team. But what cannot happen is the lack of urgency, the lack of precision, the lack of intensity. Yes, Houston plays a very strange style. A style, by the way, that Milwaukee's going to play Wednesday night and Sunday afternoon. 2 games now that the Magic have to have. They got to get one of those games now. Like Magic numbers 2, kids. They got to get one of those games. And Miami plays Dallas on Thursday, and Orlando just needs one. If Dallas beats Miami, they need just one win to clinch the division. That will guarantee at least a home game in the play-in tournament. We're talking about that. That's the wild swings we're going through. And it starts with the Magic's effort. I don't want to talk about the other teams today. Let's, yes, all the teams the Magic needed to lose won tonight. We're not going to talk about that because they don't matter. What matters is the Magic. They control their own destiny. They control their own destiny for 4 still, by the way. New York's a game ahead of them now. Those other teams don't matter. The Magic have to take care of their own business. Don't rely on anyone else to help you make the playoffs. Make the playoffs yourselves. You've put in the work. You've gone 79 games to get to this point, to have this opportunity. And so what's disappointing, what doesn't click, what doesn't make sense is the Magic threw it all away. They threw away that control by not bringing the intensity that has defined their season to this point. The Magic know who they are. They know what they're about. They know what leads to success. They are a good team. No matter where they finish this season, 46 wins is an incredible season. And we'll do that retrospective after the year. We'll do that retrospective after the regular season. It's been an incredible year already, but we know this team is better. We know this team is better than what they've shown us the last 2 weeks. They're better than what they showed us against Portland when they nearly gave that game away. They're better than what they showed in Charlotte. They're better than what they showed tonight in Houston. Because guess what? They showed it to us in the games in the middle. They showed it to us in New Orleans against the Pelicans. They showed it to us against the Bulls. Even if the team is not hitting threes, they are extremely capable of getting stops, of defending at the highest levels in this league, and putting themselves in a position to win. What happened Friday night in Charlotte is the same thing that happened Tuesday night in Houston. Orlando did not bring the right intensity early. They let a frankly weaker opponent. Rockets are a good team, much better team than the Hornets. I'll say that. They missed their shots when Charlotte made them. That's why this game was close for a lot longer than it was. But they allowed those teams to get confident, and then they had to climb uphill. That cannot happen. Your defense cannot be the reason you lose games. If the Magic lose a game because they don't make shots, that's this team. We'll live with that. We're not okay with it, but we'll live with it. If you lose a game because you miss shots, so be it. The Magic cannot lose games the way they've been losing games these past few weeks. Because Houston might let you back in the game. Charlotte, Magic got it down to 4 against Charlotte. They might let you back in the game. Portland may not have the ability to go take that lead from you. But guess who will? Milwaukee will. Philadelphia will. New York will. Cleveland will. Indiana will. If you are not sharp, if you're not focused, if you're not urgent, if you're not intense, if you're not all these adjectives, these playoff teams are going to beat you. And at this critical stage of the season, at this decisive moment, our whole season is defined by this week. It sucks. I'm sorry. We'll reflect and talk more about that later, but you control where your season ends. You control where your postseason begins. Do you want it at the Kia Center? I certainly do. My mom wants Passover here. She doesn't want me missing Passover. You want game 1 at the Kia Center? You got to play like it. And right now, the Magic don't have it. We're going to talk about the box score, talk about some individual performances, what went wrong in the game itself before we go into what comes next. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, it's time for a quick word from our friends over at Game Time. Game Time, guess what, is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch, whether it's tip-off, whatever, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets and for anything, whether it's MLB, NBA, NHL, concerts, shows, you name it, Game Time has it. Look, I've used Game Time to buy tickets to events before. I looked into it for the Royal Rumble. I looked into it when I went to the Rays game over in St. Pete last year. I'll look into it right now, tell you what to expect for Magic games. Let me just log into my Game Time account here if I can find it and all my apps. But the Magic have just one more home game left. If you want to be at this already increasingly huge Magic game, Game Time is your best place to go. If I'm looking at the Game Time right now, they are selling standing room only tickets for $73. That's your lowest, that's your cheapest price right now to get in to Kia Center for the season finale against Milwaukee Bucks. That's obviously going to be a humongous game because of a result like tonight. If you want to get in, check out that Game Time app now. That's where you're going to find the best price, and keep an eye on those prices as we get closer and closer and closer to tip-off. They give you last-minute deals. You can save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. They have zone deals. You can save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time choose the seats. They give you a video view of your panoramic view from your seat in the app, so you know exactly what it's going to look like. It's the best. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Again, that's LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDON NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. We want to thank you for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. I raised my voice a little bit today. I'm a little hot. I'm a little angry about this one, but the best part about the Locked On Podcast Network is you get the local analysis, you get the emotion, you get the passion, you get the knowledge that comes from local experts. So ditch the national networks. They're not covering your team anyway. They're not covering it with the depth you want anyway. Check out the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel. It's a free streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the streaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Okay, we're going to go through the box score here because, we got the emotion part out. We got the frustration part out there in the first segment. Let's go through what actually happened in the game and how the Magic fix it and where the Magic go from here. This was a rough one. No doubt about it. The Magic they didn't have the juice. The intensity that they usually play with, the ferocity, the physicality they usually play with was not there. And again, you can see that in the numbers. Houston shoots 52.3% from the floor. They only turned the ball over 12 times for 16 points. So Orlando got some points off turnovers, just didn't force enough turnovers. Houston did a good job protecting the ball. They usually do a good job of that. That was going to be a big battle in this game, whether the Magic would be able to protect the ball, whether they'd be able to force some turnovers. They weren't able to do that in this game, and that hurt them, to be perfectly frank. Rockets shoot 15 for 35 from beyond the arc. Orlando, despite their poor shooting, did a lot of things in this game that would usually equate to a win. They didn't force a lot of turnovers. That was probably the biggest element that was missing. And a big reason for that is actually going to be a concern that we should have for the Milwaukee games. Houston plays a 5-out switching scheme. Houston goes 5 out. They play Jabari Smith at center. They spread the floor out with 5 guys, and they kind of force you to make some really tough decisions. And really from the first quarter, the Magic were switching. They were switching 1 through 5, which is something this team wants to be able to do and wants to have the capability of doing. But the communication and how they passed off those switches was really poor. If you've heard me talk about switching schemes, personally, I grew up, very much, and I think that this is a part of the basketball culture that's changed, where switching isn't a dirty word anymore. I did grow up, with a defensive style that said, "Hey, fight through the screen, get to your man, stay on your man. Don't force a switch." Switching is fine. Like, it's not a dirty word anymore, but you still want a sense of physicality when you're switching. And the Magic were in a half drop, like Mo Wagner, Wendell Carter were kind of half dropping. But the guards were acting like they switched a lot. And so that left Fred VanVleet coming around corners with open threes. That left Jalen Green coming around corners with open threes. And look, Fred VanVleet was 6 for 11 from 3. Jalen Green was 2 for 9. Dylan Brooks was 3 for 4. That's 11 of your 15 threes right there. Jabari Smith was 3 for 5. There's 14 of your 15. The Magic really struggled with their switching. There was just no physicality at the point of attack. There was just kind of like, I'm in the screen, I'm passing them off, and that's it. And so that created some weird mismatches. That created some odd matchups in the paint. Again, this is about intensity. Like, the Magic did a lot of, I will say this. The Magic won the paint 52-50. That's usually a good sign that they're going to win the game. They only gave up 39 field goal attempts in the paint, 5 for 39. That part's bad. But the Magic were 26-53. So they missed a lot of shots that they need to make. They need to make those bunnies around the basket. They've been missing a lot of those lately. If they shoot 30, if they make, 4 more baskets, they're 30 for 53, and they get 60 points in the paint, this is a win. This game's a win. I know they lost by 12, but that kind of stuff turns the game. And that's kind of where this game went south. Very early on, the Magic were missing shots in the lane. They were trying to bait for fouls. Paolo was spending a lot of time looking at the refs. And look, Paolo ended up getting his numbers: 21 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, 7 for 19 shooting, 0 for 5 from 3. So that makes him 7 for 14 from inside the arc, 7 for 7 from foul line. That looks like and sounds like a good game from him. But early on especially, he was struggling. He had 4 turnovers in the game. A lot of them came from just the ball getting knocked away from him as he brought it down, going to the paint. He was trying, because the Rockets are playing small, they switch a lot. They were trying really hard to create this mismatch with Fred VanVleet. The Rockets would send 2-3 guys to him, and Paolo either had to pass his way or force his way through. And he spent a lot of time early in the game trying to force his way through. I will say this, and Paolo got close to kind of playoff level minutes, 36 minutes in this game. They needed him a lot here with Franz Wagner out. I will say this. I do think Paolo was trying to do the right thing. I think Paolo was trying to shoulder more responsibility with Franz Wagner out. And I think that was well-intentioned. But that's what got him in trouble. Just because Franz is out does not mean the Magic need Paolo to do more. They just need him to do what he does better. That means fewer turnovers, like fewer of these missed shots. But the ball's going to be in your hand more, so you need to make better decisions. And I think this is something that does have to click with a star, and it's something that's going to have to click with them in the playoffs. In these pressure games, in these high-level games, it's not about doing more. It's about doing what you do better, more efficiently, more effectively. It's not about doing more. And I felt like Paolo was trying to do too much. Like, he was trying to do the right things. Like, I wanted him to try and take over this game. but he was attacking unfavorable mismatches. He was bringing the ball to an area where guards could get to it. He was not reading double teams well. And look, he found it. Like, he found it by the middle of the second quarter. He was starting to play a lot better. He really struggled in that first quarter. And again, that sets the tone for everything. That put the Magic behind and really put them in a tough spot. So if that's the lesson Paolo has to learn ahead of Wednesday's game, that's the lesson he has to learn. And again, you don't want to learn these lessons in losses, but here we are. Jalen Suggs, I thought, was like the one guy who brought really any kind of defensive intensity. 21 points, 7 for 13 shooting, 2 for 5 from 3. Did have 2 steals, did have 2 blocks, added 4 assists. I really liked Jalen's game. I thought he really got into his man. Jamal Mosley put him on Jalen Green early, held Jalen Green to 14 points on 6 for 17 shooting. He did a good job on Jalen Green, but that left everyone exposed on Fred VanVleet. And while Markelle Fultz is usually a very good defender, Markelle did not do much to fight over screens. And again, this is the stuff that sets the tone for the team. This is the stuff that really, really matters. Is this ability, you got to be able to play well coming out of the blocks. Markelle Fultz had another nice game, season high 18 points, 8 for 18 shooting, continues his nice run of scoring games, missed a couple shots around the basket, missed some jumpers that he's got to make, especially with the team trailing. His offense was fine. People were complaining about Markelle, and I think they're complaining about the wrong thing with him. But look, Kel brought it, did some good things offensively. But again, this game was all about the Magic's defense and defensive intensity. Wendell Carter really struggled, especially early. 7 points, 6 rebounds, 3 for 7 shooting. He's been playing much better lately, but this was definitely a down game for him. A tough matchup for him with the lack of size. He was switching a lot, so he was away from the basket a lot. This is the point I kept making about Wendell over the summer. I like Wendell Carter. I think he's a much better player than a lot of people give him credit for. But his inability to play above the rim does hurt him. And where it hurts him is when he gets the ball underneath the basket, he has to duck down and gather himself to power up for baskets. And that's where guards reach in on him. That's where centers are able to readjust to him. If he can't go straight up and finish it, he needs to kick it back out. And this is an area that's going to be a problem. And it's a weakness of his that I don't know if it's correctable. And that showed its head here, where he was really struggling with that. Jonathan Isaac, a solid game off the bench, 10 points, 8 rebounds, 4 for 6 shooting, just did Jonathan Isaac things. Just really, really solid from him. I really liked his game. Mo Wagner, 12 points, 4 for 9 shooting, another struggling shooting game for him. Missing a lot of shots around the rim. He's not happy about that. But again, he gave the Magic a lot of energy. That fourth quarter group with Joe Ingles in there, especially 7 points for him, 2 for 6 shooting. But that second unit group in that fourth quarter cut the 19-point lead down to as little as 6. The Magic finally found some energy. They finally found some defense. And that's when they started to have some life. Like, guys, at the end of the day, this team is about their defense. And the Magic played 1 quarter of good defense tonight. Like literally, they played 1 quarter of good defense against the Rockets. And the Rockets are a very good team. They just missed the playoffs this year. They're where the Magic were last year. So they're a good team. They will, this was always going to be a hard game. They're very good at home. This was always going to be a difficult game. It was a winnable game, but a very difficult game. And the Magic can't get away with playing 1 quarter of good defense. They need 4 quarters of good defense, and they're going to need 4 quarters of good defense the rest of the way. The Houston Rockets defeat the Orlando Magic 118-106. So what happens next? It's getting dark early here. We'll talk about how the Magic move forward coming up here in just a moment. But first, it's time for a quick word from our friends over at BetterHelp. Sometimes we all need the opportunity to get something off our chest. Big or small, certain things can really start to get to you. It's important to let that out, especially to someone who's unbiased in your life. So today, I want to say how I really feel about something. You might even be thinking about the same thing this week. I had a travel day last Thursday going from New Orleans to Charlotte. And boy, it was frustrating. I won't lie. My flight from New Orleans, I was flying New Orleans, Atlanta to Charlotte. My flight to Atlanta was delayed by an hour. And they couldn't book me on another flight, on a later flight from Atlanta to Charlotte. So I said, I got to get to Charlotte tonight. I got to meet the team. What can you do for me? They had to fly me to Detroit and then to Charlotte. It was a long day. I was supposed to get into Charlotte at like 5:30. I didn't get in until midnight. From what I heard, the Magic had played trebles too. And nothing can annoy people more than stuff that is out of your control. But something that I have learned through therapy, something that I have really struggled with and worked on, is my ability to let go of the things I can control and only focus on the things I can. And that's, a lot of that's my attitude. A lot of that is my temperament. A lot of that is just understanding there's a lot that I can't do, and all I can do is focus on me. And if I do me, things should work themselves out. Process over results. That's the way that therapy has helped me. And therapy can be different for everyone. Most of us have bigger problems than our favorite sports team. And it's important to get things off your chest every once in a while. I know the Magic were complaining about their travel issues on that road trip too. So it was nice to commiserate a little bit. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. So here we are. The Orlando Magic are now sitting in fourth place in the Eastern Conference, game behind the Knicks, tied with the Cavs, 2 games behind the Bucks, 1.5 ahead of the Pacers. No, half game ahead of the Pacers, 1.5 ahead of the Sixers. They're heading to Milwaukee. Back-to-back that we want to throw into the sun. We've wanted to throw this back-to-back into the sun since August. They're game and a half ahead of the Heat now, too, I believe, or 2.5 ahead of the Heat now. It's getting dark. It is very easy to look at the upcoming schedule, at Milwaukee, at Philadelphia, home versus Milwaukee, and really start to worry. And we did this yesterday. We went through what everyone's schedule is. The Magic and the Bucks have by far the toughest schedule of any of the teams that we're talking about. Obviously, you trust Milwaukee, and Giannis Antetokounmpo injured his calf in Tuesday's win over the Celtics. It's not clear if he's gonna play on Wednesday. My bet is he will not, but I would also bet that Franz Wagner will be out Wednesday too. I would bet that Jonathan Isaac will be out Wednesday, and that Markelle Fultz may not even play Wednesday because they haven't played back-to-backs all year. We are, if Tuesday wasn't a must-win game, we are now very much in must-win territory because a loss to Milwaukee on Wednesday means the game against Philadelphia is a play-in elimination game, essentially. The Sixers would be a game back of the Magic. They own the tiebreaker. They would be able to tie the Magic for 5th or whatever it would be. The Magic are very much in danger of falling back into the play-in, something that we maybe thought was impossible Sunday or impossible a week ago. But it feels bad. It feels really, really dark. And so on a day when we're frustrated, I'm sure the team is frustrated. I'm sure the team is, I'm recording this at 1:13 in the morning. The team is on their flight to Milwaukee. I am sure they are stewing and going through all this too. I'm an optimist. So I want to leave this episode on an optimistic note. The Magic control their own destiny. I don't even want to talk about the other teams anymore. I don't care what they're doing. If the Magic do what we know they are capable of doing, they are going to be fine. They're going to host game 1, whatever the case may be. They are going to be exactly where they need to be. And honestly, no matter what happens, the Magic are going to be exactly where they need to be for their growth. You're going to hate me for saying this, especially on a night like tonight. And I'm going to hate me for saying this because guess what? The future doesn't matter right now. All that stuff doesn't matter. What the Magic need to add to the roster, like I had conversations with people about this throughout the night, and it's just like, guys, like a lot of this stuff isn't new. Yes, we know the Magic needs shooting. Yes, the Magic could use an upgraded point guard. Yes, the Magic could use maybe an upgraded center. We know all that. But we can address that after the playoffs. We're going to learn a lot more about what the Magic need after the playoffs. And like I would argue, like this Magic team is a house of cards. You remove a key piece and they don't have anyone that can step in and fill in. Losing Franz Wagner is a big deal. Paolo Banchero is the only one that could drive and attack off the dribble. And it was clear and obvious that was the case. So I understand the Magic wanting to be very cautious with Franz Wagner, making sure that he is healthy and good to go. But the Magic control their own destiny. If the Magic take care of their business will take care of them. And I want to make this abundantly clear. I've said this for the last 2 weeks. I will say it again. This Magic team has shown us over the last 79 games that they can beat anybody, any team on their schedule. I have faith that they can win tonight in Milwaukee. I have faith that they can beat Philadelphia on Friday. I have faith that they can beat Milwaukee again on Sunday. Will they? That's the part we'll find out. Can they? Absolutely. And that's the biggest thing that's changed this year. That's the biggest thing that is different about this team from so many other teams. And this team, frankly, needs that reminder that they are good enough. Because at this moment when this Magic team, the fan base is at its lowest and wringing their hands and fretting and so concerned about the immediate future and whether this team will secure that playoff spot that they have not earned yet, but have put themselves in a great position to do so. Well, everyone's fretting about that. I want to remind you, and I want to remind this team, if they're listening, I don't know if they are, that they are good enough. They are the number 3 defense in the league entering Tuesday's game. Maybe they need that reminder of how good they are. They didn't play like it Tuesday night. They didn't live up to the standard. And we got to hold them to that. Tuesday night's effort was unacceptable. They cannot play like that. They cannot play like that again the rest of the season. Get all those games out of your system now. They're done. You're good. You're good. Because the playoffs have begun. And to win in the playoffs, you got to be who you are. Don't try and reinvent the wheel at this stage. We're not a 3-point shooting team. Don't try to be. Get back to that gritty, grimy, physical defense that is Orlando Magic basketball. Because whatever changes come in the near future, in the offseason, in the years to come, this is the core of who you are. And that's what the Magic lost Friday night in Charlotte. That's what the Magic lost Tuesday night in Houston. If the Magic want to secure their spot in the playoffs, and they can still do that, Indiana plays Cleveland on Friday. Indiana plays Cleveland on Friday. Miami plays Dallas on Thursday. There other teams will help you a little bit, you hope. But if the Magic want to secure their playoff spot, it's on them to do so. And they are capable of doing it. As bad as tonight feels, there's one thing I know about this Magic team. There's one thing that has been proven over and over and over again throughout these 79 games that we've played so far. When this team faces failure like they did Tuesday night, they respond. That is as deeply embedded in the character of this team as anything else, as all the inconsistencies, as all the youth. They respond. And guess what? This is great practice. Because when we get into the playoffs, there's going to be a disappointing loss. There is going to be a loss that makes you question everything about this team. And in the playoffs, your playoff success is measured in how you respond to that. And so all we can ask of the Magic now, all the Magic can do is put this game behind them. It's done. Sorry, I nearly destroyed my internet there. This game is done. It's over. They can't get it back. They can ask why. They can sit there on that plane and figure out why this happened. But it's done. All they can do is respond. And with whatever bit of energy they have left, whatever little bit they can muster, they have to bring to Milwaukee on Wednesday. When the schedule came out, we knew this last stretch was going to be difficult. I remember sitting here in August, breaking down that schedule and saying, if the Magic need to get their work done early, because if they're hanging on to the 9 or the 10 during the last week of the season, it's going to be a struggle. And look, here we are. Magic are hanging on to the 4. And it's going to be a struggle. This is going to be a fight. But you wouldn't want it any other way. You wouldn't want it any other way than to go out and prove what you're capable of doing. And this Magic team can do that. They are good enough. We expect them to be good enough. They have proven to us that they are good enough. We're going to hold them to the belief that they are good enough. That's why tonight's disappointing. Like I said, I don't care if the Magic make or miss shots. They got to make shots, obviously, to win. Like, that stuff matters. And winning matters. Only thing that matters is not how you win, but whether you win. We're at that point in the season. Winning is the only thing that matters. But what isn't excusable is not playing to the standard. Is not playing with that intensity, that urgency. The playoffs for the Magic have begun. They took a bad loss. They lost a game 1 at home, but essentially. They got to go on the road now and find a way to get that game back. That's what's going to happen in the playoffs. And if they want to succeed in the playoffs, they got to win on the road. They got to win when their backs are against the wall, when they don't have answers. They got to find a way. And if the Magic want to avoid the play-in, if the Magic want home court advantage in the first round, they've got to respond. Like I said, the playoffs have begun. The regular season's over, guys. Let's put it, let's be real. The regular season is over. This is playoff basketball now. And the biggest question the Magic have to answer, especially after Tuesday night's loss now, is are they going to rise to the occasion? I want to thank you all for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at @PhilipRR_OMD. Subscribe to the podcast, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all of them podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us there on Twitter at @OMagicDaily. Also, be sure to check out my Patreon page, the Orlando Magic Hub. You can find extra Magic content there at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. And as always, thank you for your support. That's going to do it for me. For your next listen, be sure to check out the Locked On Sports Day 24/7 streaming channel. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app, as well as on YouTube. On tomorrow's episode of Locked On Magic, we'll break down every part of the Magic's big game against the Milwaukee Bucks. Every game's a must-win game at this point. Again, it's playoff basketball, folks. We will break that all down on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Magic. But until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Phil Crossman, right? We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.